Let's bring the computer a bit closer. So, hello. I couldn't think of a title for the broadcast, so anyway. So, hello, welcome to the Thursday evening broadcast. I do this stream every Thursday at 8:30 p.m. UK time. So you can watch through YouTube and you ask questions at the question part after the introduction. You ask questions through Skype. Yes. You can also send questions prior to the stream, but it's best to send them no earlier than a day before, because I'll forget that they're there. So it's best to do it the day before or on the day. Yeah. So as there's no title, no official title, I have to just see what theme presents itself. So this is obviously a magnificent subject, non-duality, because it's talking about non-separation. It's talking about the, could say, unity, the wholeness of this experience, of this. It's talking about an undivided reality. It's talking about this being free, this being whole, this being perfect as it's appearing, this not being at the control of someone, of anybody, about this being life appearing in all its shapes, all its forms, all its textures, all its variety, appearing, but it's not these individuated, separate pieces. It is totality, wholeness, everything, and it isn't divided. So then where does this division, seeming division, come from? It seems as if the seeming division can only come from ideas, from the mental faculty that humans have to divide, to categorize, to label, which is a useful, practical ability, a useful functioning, to be able to categorize into groups of this, of that, to differentiate by quality. It's a very useful, practical tool we have. But the problem seems to have come when that tool, that thinking ability, that labeling and separating ability becomes personal, becomes a reality of its own. Like it was being used so much and emphasized so much and lived through so much. It's began to like have a life of its own. I can just hear a child in the hallway. My mother antennae is going, child. What's a child doing out of bed? The child is around. Sorry if it ruins the flow sometimes. But it's just the practicality of of a mother doing a live stream from her living room. I have to have the children as well as a. I think they've gone back to bed. Hang on. It's gone quiet. So that seems to be where the problems began. This overactive mental energy or mental focus on the intellect began. Because obviously there's a natural, as an animal, there's a natural biological I thought somebody was here. Yeah. There's a natural biological instruction or a biological kind of imprint to protect the body to survive. And so to look out for potential threat, to look out for the survival of this being, this machine, is going to be a natural thing. But for that to take over, it's constant looking for threat. It's constant obsession with this idea of who I am, or of the body, this story of someone. Trying to protect that someone, trying to attain pleasure for that someone. It is where the suffering seems to stem from, this story of someone. So what the joyous part of this message is, the joyous part is that that story of someone isn't true. It isn't a reality that someone is living, that someone has problems, that someone has conditioning, that someone has a future and a past. That isn't a reality. And that is the joy and the freedom when this is realized, that that is something moving in time. That is an idea appearing. And it isn't necessarily the end of that appearance or that story. It's the end of that being true, the end of that story of someone being lived through, as if it's a reality, as if that someone is really sitting here experiencing life. There's nothing wrong with trying to make that story better. Nothing wrong with trying to heal things, trying to make the life experience for that human better and improve the situation, or maybe heal the character dynamics, or heal trauma, or heal or improve certain things that the character might struggle with. That's totally fine, but this is cutting through all that and pointing to where freedom is, pointing to what is longed for, which is the end of that intense suffering when life is taken to be personal, when life is taken to be owned by someone, happening to someone, responsibility of someone. This is something that's looked over. What's a better phrase for it? Not looked over, but it's not even thought about or mentioned as a possibility. Like it's not even like it's not even an idea or a potential solution offered in society at large. In society, it's all about, it's all within that dream of someone. So it's quite wonderful actually that this message does pierce through society. I mean, it's appearing, it's on YouTube. There were talks and retreats and books and things. Inquiring into this, pointing this out. That this story of you isn't true. It may be appearing a story of you, but it isn't true. It doesn't need to be lived through as a reality. So that's what these talks are about. That life doesn't need to be suffering. That life, yes, has pain and pleasure. Good things happen, bad things happen. But it doesn't need to be suffering. It doesn't need to be hell. We think we need to escape the bad things. I mean, I thought this was about escaping life, escaping the ups and downs of life, the painfulness of life. I thought that was the problem, that life was the problem, and it wasn't ever the problem. This belief, this deeply ingrained belief, energetically believed that there was someone living life, that this story of me was a reality. And that story can be hell. But it can be dropped just like that. Because it isn't true. It isn't the one who's sitting here and listening. It isn't the one who's breathing. This is happening. All of this is happening. the looking, the feeling, the hearing, the thinking, the speaking. It's all happening. And this story, or the idea of you sitting here, you listening, you seeing, you feeling, isn't the source or the origin of the looking, of the hearing, of the thinking. It's another appearance, another idea appearing. Which can sound really bizarre when there's that strong identification with that primary thought of I, that primary feeling of I. It can sound crazy. Of course I'm thinking, of course I'm looking. It can sound really, yeah, like it's far out, this idea that there's no one doing any of that. It can seem really far out. But actually the idea that there is someone looking and speaking and doing, that's the thing that's far out. That's the after effect. That's the thing that appears after claiming. The primary experience is this is happening. There is looking and hearing before any idea of I am hearing, I am looking. There is just looking and just hearing and feeling and breathing. Before any thought, before any idea. This is happening. It needs nothing. It just happens. And in that happening, it creates a storyline of someone. It creates ideas of someone. But they're not. Then I was trying to say they're not any more. That's a really bad sentence. Then it's not. It's it's no more longer lasting. It's no more longer lasting than a sound. What I mean is that a sound happens and it's gone. So in the same way, this thought of I am here, I am listening, is a thought appearing and it's gone. It's not any more meaningful than the sound of a twig being stepped on or the clock ticking. It's just repeated and repeated and repeated, giving the impression of it being a permanent thing. Something in the horizontal, lasting in time. Even the clock ticking, the second hand on the clock ticking, it appears and disappears. But our mind fills in. It's always doing that, as in it's always going round and it's consistently doing that. But in the moment, there's just tick and it's gone, tick and it's gone. The mind is filling it all in, making it appear to be permanent reality, as if it's heading somewhere in time. It's just going round and round in circles, really, the clock. I must peel that sticker off. It's been there since I bought it. Oh, okay. Maybe not now. Maybe I'll, I'll do that another time. Oh, I can't stop doing it now. Got to peel the rest of it off. So, is that all? So what is longed for is right here, appearing as everything. That's what's longed for, but it seems like it's not, as if this isn't enough, like, because the mind's projections are so strong. The mind's ideas of other and something else better than feeling your foot on the floor or the bum on the seat or hearing whatever is appearing, the feelings, the emotions, the activity. What you long for was this. Not ideas of enlightenment or ideas of grandness, achievement. But just freedom. Freedom from needing anything else for your happiness. Believing your happiness and your peace is found in the future, in something, in some form, in some experience yet to come. This is what is longed for. Just the ease of living, the ease of life happening. Where pain and pleasure can come without it disrupting your freedom. And this is what life is, this movement, this flow. And all this is really about is that flow happening with ease. Not some big attainment, but just life happening with ease. Whatever's appearing. Whether you're crying, whether you're in pain, whether you're hurt, whether you're happy, nothing lasts. So this flow just happening freely, the changefulness of the emotions, the changefulness of the circumstances, you get, you lose. You're happy, you're sad, regardless. There is freedom. And this is what non-duality points to, that this is whole. This is whole. I have a low battery on my laptop. 20%. Should be enough to answer any questions, if there are any. I'll just check on Skype. So there are no questions at the minute. So I'll give it another minute or two, and then I'll. Hi, Brian. What brings about the freedom you mentioned? What brings about the freedom? Well, that's kind of the beautiful thing about this freedom. It's not brought about, it already is. But I guess what you're asking is how is this revealed? But it always is, this freedom. So how is it revealed? I can only really say it from my experience, obviously, is that it gets pointed out, it gets pointed to and described, and there's, at least here, there was a deep resonance to that description, to that pointing. It took over everything, this desire to know what was being pointed to, or to experience that. And so that was the fire, the fuel, really. Yeah, so there was just a following of that, of that passion, of the love of hearing it. But that just happened. It wasn't like there was like any choice in that matter. It's just the way it happened. Just the way it happened. And it must be a similar thing there. If you're drawn to this message, there must be that interest, that resonance with this pointing. So it's happening. It just happens. This undoing of the illusion. that there's someone here, that story of someone is a reality. It's not undoing of it. Couldn't possibly say how. It just seems to happen. So if you want like a set formula, or step 1 is this, step 2 is that, step 3 is that, I can't offer that because that isn't the way it seems to happen. Like we imagine this as a personal doership, that we can do something, that this sense of someone can actually do something. What are the steps? What's the method? How do I mix the cake? What do I do? But it isn't a personal doing. It's just a happening, like everything else. Doesn't the seeking for it have the opposite effect and take you away from it? Well, the seeking can't take you closer to it or further away from it. It is what it is. Seeking is seeking. Like who would it take away from it, or who would it bring closer to it? These are all ideas based upon there being someone, about this being about an independent entity that has that volition to seek or not seek, to get nearer or get further away. That's just not even, that's all based upon there being an independent somebody. We give it a bad name, seeking. We say, you're seeking, so that's a bad thing. And like it's like it makes sense as well to seek. If you've lost something, you're gonna logically try and seek to find it. So it's not a bad thing to seek, to look for something. You're trying to find home. It's actually a beautiful thing to seek to find home. I know it sounds a bit mad in this community, but actually it's beautiful. It's beautiful to inquire into this. I mean, it appears as that there wouldn't be an interest in buying the books or going to talks if there wasn't a seeking, a desire to go home. It seems to appear that way. Oh, well, that's Dion. Brian. Okay, maybe. Thank you, Brian. Feel free to add more if you want to. Hi, Dion. Hi, Rebekah. Do you feel your freedom could have come about without attending non-dual meetings and being in the presence of teachers? Who knows? Who knows? That could only be like speculation, imagining. Could it have happened without what happened happening? It's like you can never say no. It could be. It could have happened without that, but it didn't. That's what happened. You hear some people saying it happens without going to talks and things, but I mean, is that even true? Who knows? Who knows? That isn't what happened here. And I'd assume most humans who talk about this have read books or been to see teachers or gone to retreats and talks. You can never say never, but I think most people would say they had some kind of spiritual path, some kind of spiritual journey. But yeah, who knows? I mean, why is that even relevant to anything? How does that affect anything? It's still this, what is happening? Whether you went to a talk to hear that or you didn't is kind of irrelevant. The clock's still ticking. Your bum's on the seat. The light is still shining. I have a low battery live on my laptop. Okay, I think Brian's is gone. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Dion, for your questions. I think that's it. Thank you for joining the stream. Back on Thursday again at 8:30, so you can join me then with any questions you might have. Have a good week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.